Hi there, everybody. Steve Jensen, Dr. J from the National Sales Academy and Impact Training Corporation. And how's sales? Good war cry to actually start the week with. How's sales going? A good response is unbelievable. It could be unbelievably great or it could be unbelievably poor. But isn't it great? When it comes down to sales, every day is a new day. We can always change the week by having an absolutely terrific Thursday or a terrific Friday, or planning a great weekend, or maybe planning a great Monday. And when it comes down to sales, it's interesting. When you actually plan and do your preparation, it makes an enormous difference to what happens. Gone are the days of just winging it and hoping people just walk in or give you a telephone call out of the blue, because preparation is the key to have successful selling. And today what I'd like to do is give you some pointers to actually be able to give you a skill set and maybe some tools and ideas to be able to plan and prepare for your sales for the week or for the month or even the quarter. Now, when it comes to sales, poor preparation usually equals poor results. And what does that mean? Do you have your tools ready? Have you practiced? And isn't it interesting, before someone comes in or you go to see somebody, have you actually gone through the scenarios that could possibly take place in your sale? In other words, do you know the rebuttals? Or do you know how to create a massive amount of value? Are you good at building rapport and all those sorts of fundamentals that we take for granted? And when we actually do a good preparation and we know what to say, it's really great because it then just flows. When you're in the flow, you know those weeks where everything just goes right, and it's usually because you've been well prepared, your mindset is good, and you've got your tools ready. If you're the type of salesperson that just wings it, you'll have ups and you'll have downs. And if you're an intuitive sales professional that can get away with that, that's terrific. But most of us out there in the world of professional communication need to have a plan. What tools are you going to have? What have you prepared for your prospective client? And are you ready for maybe that, let's say, left field question? Or have you done a bit of research on the company you're going to be working with? Have you looked at their website? I'm going to give you some ideas so you don't have poor preparation, which equals poor outcomes. Number one, your PDR, your practice, your drill, rehearse. If someone's coming in and it's a big deal or a small deal, make sure you do a little bit of a practice. You'll probably have had a telephone call, or you find out what their compelling reason is. So you should have a little bit of an action plan ready. There's nothing wrong with actually using your teach sheets, having them marked up and so forth, and making sure that you understand that a B2B sale, which is a business to business sale, is the same as a B2C sale, which is a business to consumer. And people say, oh no, it's not, it's actually, it's talking to a business. No, you're talking to a human being. It could be a board of directors, but there's always somebody that's going to be one or two decision makers in that conversation. So making sure that you know who they are. If it's a B2C and it's a conversation, you should have some rapport. Make sure that you prepare an action plan before they turn up. So remember, you've got to connect with the person. So that connection and that preparation and reviewing what you've spoken about before they turn up as a B2C is quite critical. I always believe it's really important to have something that you can give them, maybe a cup of tea or coffee that you already know that they'd like to have, or possibly having some action plans put into an envelope with their name on it. So this preparation for the presentation is equally as important on how proficient you are at actually delivering your presentation and going through your initial contact and your qualification, your explanation, demonstration, and close. Now, if you're going to a business and presenting your product or services to a business, or they're coming to see you, make sure that you do your preparation about their business. Who are their competitors? What are their USPs in the marketplace? Find out some of the lingo that they use. And make sure that you prepare. Don't just put it to memory, write it down so you have like a little cheat sheet for yourself. We call it a prep sheet. So this preparation before someone comes in, reviewing what they said on the telephone or what they sent you as a maybe online, make sure it's reviewed, you've got their name right, and some of the commonality you can bring up again when they turn up. Now, if you're going to see a person in a B2B, make sure you know who the people are going to be at the meeting. What's their role? And maybe ask some questions before you turn up. Go to their website. Look at, as I said earlier, their USPs and maybe some of their competitors, and find out, what's happening in their marketplace. Being well prepared means that you are well armed for anything that might be a little bit left field. The B2B research is quite critical. Knowing how long they've been in business for, maybe if they're national or global. Understand where they came from. Do some research, find out a little bit about their business and some of their strengths and also some of possibly their weaknesses. Don't bring up their weaknesses, ask questions so they divulge those weaknesses to you. Now, it just depends on what your services are. So that's all about qualification. The next thing is, I strongly recommend that you prepare some teach sheets. In other words, you have a product and or service. Now, if you're new to the business, it's always a good idea to have some ready reckoners and some reminders that you can mark up and then read to the people and then discuss them. If it's a B2C, which is a consumer, you can still use those cheat sheets or teach sheets, whatever you like to call them, to actually prepare them and mark them up. When we say marking them up, what does mark up mean? Marking up means putting a highlight on it. Maybe if it's the person's name, put a post-it note on the information or in their action plan that you prepared specifically for them. That's in an envelope. Have their name on it. Make sure there's an arrow going there. If it's on a lovely printed cheat sheet, have one specifically for them. And as I said, put their name on it, put some arrows on it. And the same if you're going to a B2B, so you can hand out some of your information and then you can read it to them and they can read it too. So if they're just hearing you talk and they can't read it, later they'll forget it. Now remember, when you're talking, they're going to be listening. They're not going to be reading. If you want them to look at something in a PowerPoint presentation for a B2B, anything you want someone to pay attention to, make sure that you look at it. Isn't it interesting when you actually look at their eyes, when everyone says look at their eyes, well, they'll look at your eyes. But if you're looking at the thing over there and talk to the PowerPoint or the chart, they'll look at the chart. Don't keep looking backwards and forwards to them. Now remember, the quality of your handouts and the things you use does get noticed. In other words, if you have a nice pen, make sure it's a good pen. Make sure that your sheets are, color. Maybe on a little bit more, let's say, heavier duty paper if you're using paper. Those sorts of little things do make a big difference. So do your research about the B2B, or do your research or review what you built rapport with from your prospect as a B2C. Make sure that you personalize all your teach sheets and hand them out there in an action plan. Now, action plans are something that I strongly recommend that you have when anyone turns up to see you or you go to see them. In other words, they want to talk to an expert. And remember, they don't want to buy your product and or service. They want the feeling that goes with buying your product and service. So what are you going to do to create an experience? This is something else I'd like you to consider. I want you to think, what experience do I want my prospective client to have? I want them to feel, let's say, that they belong. So what are you going to do to make sure they belong? Maybe you want to make sure that they see you as an expert. So what are you going to do to teach them things that they just don't know, and throw in a USP and ask them, how exciting is that? So you go from that red brain, that logical conversation, into a green brain. How are you going to do that? Make sure you've done your preparation and maybe done a role play or 4 or so with a few of your colleagues before you go and do your presentation. So you've done preparation for your presentation. And likewise for a B2B if you're going there or they're coming to see you. Now, the last thing, and I think it's probably one of the most important things, have your paperwork pre-done. In other words, if they're going to use a qualification sheet that they're going to complete a needs analysis, make sure you write their name on it and tick a few boxes that they've already, let's say, answered the questions on the telephone. So if they've answered questions already, make sure you fill in those answers so they can see that you've listened to the conversation. If there's a paperwork that they need to complete, have it pre-filled so it saves the time. That shortens the sales cycle. Prepare things on your explanation and demonstration which are tailored for that person. So have things available that have already been pre-planned so that when you get to the close, it's just a natural progression to move forward. And all those little test closes along the way make an enormous difference. So many people wing it when they do a presentation. I've done it before. I'll just pull things out. I've been to places where they said, oh, let me just go and get that stuff for you. And they go and get it and they're shuffling around and they come back. Boy, unprofessional. Have it all at your fingertips. And making sure that it's a smooth transition into the decision-making process or to the what's next. So they look at you as a pro, someone that cares, someone that really takes a pride in what they're going to get and how they're feeling. So preparation is the key to successful selling. If you actually, let's say, shortcut things, don't take the time to prepare or even to practice, and I strongly recommend a good practice. Now, people know. And guess what happens when we're unprepared? We start to talk more to try to bamboozle them with verbiage. We know that doesn't work. I also believe it's really important to make sure that if you have an immediate product or what's next, which is really clear in your mind, make sure you practice that too. So it becomes easy to do, the flow is natural, and it's not forced. Okay. Love you to put some comments in and maybe some questions that you might have about your preparation, maybe about your product or service in particular. And if you like, we've got a number of sales guides we could give you that could help you along the way. And even better, if you'd like to have a sales growth plan session, let us know. Just put sales growth plan in the comments and we'll get in contact with you and we'll organize a time to go have a good hour together and we can find out what's working, what's not, what's holding you back, and then give you a bit of a 90-day plan to put into practice. Okay? Thanks for joining me today. We'll catch up with you later. Bye for now.